Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to unpack some really compelling, sometimes kind of unsettling information and help you make sense of it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today we're tackling a question that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a movie script.
hmm
What if these ancient, unimaginable forces are actually stirring right now, hidden away in Antarctica?
It's a wild premise. And we've gathered a whole stack of sources. You sent us personal accounts, researcher discussions, author interviews, all making some pretty astonishing claims.
Astonishing is one word for it.
Right. We're talking about claims of colossal beings waking up, super advanced, hidden tech surfacing, and this idea of an impending great deception.
A deception that the sources say could basically flip everything we think we know about history, about reality itself, completely on its head. So, our mission here, for you listening, is to navigate all these really complex, urgent claims. We'll pull out the most surprising bits, the most relevant insights according to these sources, and try to understand what it could all mean, for now and for what's coming.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so starting point. Antarctica. Bottom of the world, fifth largest continent, super mysterious, and it's not empty. The sources make a point of mentioning off-limits, military bases, research stations, stuff like that.
And they bring up a pretty big name visiting down there, too. Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut.
Yeah, that's interesting. What's the angle there?
Well, the sources kind of imply he saw more than he probably bargained for, suggesting there was, a hidden reason for him being in such a remote place, something connected to what else might be there.
Okay, so that sets the stage, and this is where it gets, well, even stranger. The core claim from these sources. Creatures known as the giants, the Nephilim, are coming awake.
From under the ice.
Right. The Nephilim, for anyone maybe not familiar, those are the giants from, ancient biblical texts, right? Sometimes linked to fallen angels.
That's the connection made in these sources, yes. And they claim something broke them out of, well, stasis, like suspended animation.
And they give a number.
They do. 4 dozen giants reportedly released.
4 dozen. Wow. And these aren't just slightly tall guys?
No. The descriptions are imposing, 15 to 20 feet tall.
Okay, that's huge. But it's not just the size, is it? There's something else mentioned.
Right. The sources emphasize this.
Yeah.
This mental pressure they supposedly give off.
Mental pressure? Like what?
They compare it to what some people report in, say, Bigfoot encounters. Something that just overwhelms you mentally, emotionally. It sounds debilitating, honestly, more than just a physical threat.
How would anyone even defend against something like that? Did the sources offer anything?
They did, actually. A very specific vulnerability. They're apparently bound by copper shackles.
Copper shackles.
Yeah, in most, if not all, cases, according to the claims. Which leads to very specific advice on how to fight them.
Okay, so what kind of weapons are we talking about?
Again, very specific. It has to be solid copper-tipped ammo, arrowheads, spearheads.
Solid copper.
Emphasis on solid. They explicitly say not copper-jacketed.
So standard bullets are out.
Like .223 rounds.
Yeah.
Ineffective, apparently.
Yeah.
But they mention 12-gauge shotguns with rifled slugs up to 650 grains. The key seems to be the mass and density of the copper itself.
It's almost like a manual, isn't it? Here's the monster, here's the very specific weakness.
It really is. It suggests this wasn't just a random encounter, but something known with established countermeasures within this narrative.
And there's tactical advice too, right? Beyond just the ammo type.
Oh, yeah. Very direct. Always shoot higher. And the absolute must. Destroy the head totally in totality.
Totally in totality. Wow. What kind of firepower do they recommend for that?
Heavy stuff. Like M240s, it's a .308 belt-fed machine gun.
Yeah.
Grenade launchers, too. And they even bring up the biblical story of David and Goliath. David cutting off Goliath's head.
Yeah.
They frame it as a historical precedent for needing to destroy the head completely.
Okay, so giants under the ice, specific ways to fight them. But this isn't just happening in Antarctica, according to these sources.
Yeah, that's where it gets even bigger in scope. They describe this massive tunnel system, a couple of miles wide, apparently.
Miles wide? How is that even made?
Created by huge, massive tunneling devices, machines that could supposedly advance, get this, 7 miles a day.
7 miles a day. That's
Yeah.
incredible speed. Where do these tunnels supposedly go?
It's a huge network, starting in southern Argentina, going underwater, then supposedly running up through South America, Central America, North America, all the way into Canada's Northwest Territories,
I mean, up where?
leading to rather large caves, is how the sources put it.
So this network connects Antarctica to well, potentially a lot of places.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that ties into reports mentioned in the sources of these creatures actually being spotted outside Antarctica, like in Bolivia, other parts of Central and Northern South America.
And what happens when people encounter them there?
Well, this is where it gets really concerning, according to these accounts. Local forces, international special forces, including about a company of U.S. special forces called Uncle Sam in the material, they were sent to investigate. But the reports claim they just couldn't handle it, mentally, emotionally, even tactically.
You couldn't handle it how?
The sources state that no one has been able to come out of an encounter as they went in. It suggests a really profound, lasting negative impact.
Okay, so this is already a lot. Giants, tunnels, global encounters. But the sources say this is just one piece of something bigger.
Yeah, they frame it as part of a grand orchestration, something that connects these awakenings to dark technologies and really ancient deceptions.
Dark technologies, like what?
Well, one really unsettling detail is this mention of a massive underwater craft, like 2.5 miles wide.
2.5 miles underwater.
Yeah, described as a leviathan in size. Apparently, it's been under construction for nearly 50 years and is now active, moving.
Moving where? What's its purpose, according to these claims?
It's described as a kind of mobile stronghold. For who? Well, the sources list black covens of the world, Nazis, and others who are working for Satan. It's even likened to a death planet or the destroyer.
That sounds apocalyptic. What can it do?
It's supposedly built to carry huge cargoes tanks, artillery, loaded from surface ships using elevators the size of half a football field. Wow. And it's armed, too, equipped with the latest, later sonic visual weaponry. So the picture painted isn't just some secret sub. It's a massive mobile operational base for these shadowy groups.
And you mentioned Nazis. How do they fit into this, according to the sources?
The claim is that they survived after World War II by gaining access to information and science that was previously unknown. Accepting information and science is the phrase used.
Linking them to what sort of things?
Things like Nazi concubines under the ice, advanced spacecraft. It presents this whole secret history where they got a massive technological leap.
Okay, advanced tech, secret history.
Yeah.
What about control? Is that part of this orchestration?
Definitely. The sources make some pretty extreme claims here, like intelligence agencies being able to literally plant mental bombs in people.
Mental bombs?
Yeah, and being able to control your mind. Even being able to accelerate cells within the human body to generate diseases electromagnetically at a distance.
That's terrifying. If any of that were possible, the implications are just staggering. Free will, health, everything.
Absolutely. It raises huge ethical questions just based on the claims themselves.
And there's more, isn't there? Something about cannibalism?
Yeah. This is another disturbing thread the sources bring up. They claim that this cannibalism meme and theme has surfaced in the public consciousness globally, right around the same time these giants were supposedly released.
Is there a connection made?
They suggest the idea originates with the giants themselves, and they connect it to ancient terms like Ka and Baal, possibly referring to old lambs or maybe the prophets of Baal from the Bible.
And the sources get specific about this.
Very specific and quite graphic, honestly.
Yeah.
We need to be clear, we're just relaying what's in the source material here, not endorsing it.
Understood.
They mention things like a CNN reporter allegedly shown eating human remains with Hindu cannibals, is the term used in the source. And another claim that some interpretations within Islam now openly teach eating your enemies, the kafir.
Wow, okay. That's intense.
It is. And then, almost blending sci-fi with the supernatural, they introduce Canabots.
Canabots, what are those?
AI robots, but with sentience, and supposedly capable of being possessed by evil spirits.
Okay, so sentient AI possessed by demons, that's blurring a lot of lines.
It really is, and it ties into the broader theme of fallen angels mentioned in the sources. They note the figure of more than 200, or a third of the angels, falling from heaven.
Is there a connection to modern times?
They make one, yeah. Linking the reported CIA program codenamed Weeping Angel to the Gregory.
Who are the Gregory?
According to texts like the Book of Enoch, which the sources reference, they're fallen angels who weep for forgiveness, but apparently won't receive it.
There's also something about DNA in all this, isn't there?
Yes. DNA is described as the ultimate storage medium. But more than that, the sources claim the Human Genome Project is actually being used to target people.
Target them how?
Based on specific genetic markers from the fallen ones. suggesting a kind of genetic warfare or control tied back to this ancient angelic conflict.
So all of these threads, the giants, the tech, the control, the spiritual elements, they all point towards what's the end game, according to these sources?
They point towards an imminent future that requires vigilance, preparation, and at the heart of it is what they call the greatest deception.
Okay, what is this great deception supposed to be?
The core message they claim will be something like this. There is no God, Jesus is not real, and that aliens created us and they're coming back to save us all.
Aliens created us. So an extraterrestrial explanation for human origins.
Exactly. And this revelation will supposedly come with new ancient technology and the true history being revealed.
Dating, too.
What they call the golden age of man, where humans supposedly become like gods, living forever in perpetual pleasure and perversion.
That sounds seductive, in a way. Is this supposed to be happening soon?
The sources stress the urgency. They believe we're approaching very quickly the biblical end time scenario. Maybe even on the first step. The time frame is narrowing greatly, they say.
So if this is coming, what do the sources advise people to do, besides just being aware?
Well, they emphasize physical preparation, stocking up on food and water and guns and ammo.
Okay, practical survival advice. What about the spiritual side?
They frame spiritual warfare as basically unavoidable, saying you can't just choose to be neutral because the devil won't honor that. You have to pick a side, essentially.
And they connect this to current events, too.
They do. They mention contemporary social trends, like what they term the rise of this feminism in emasculated men, claiming these are part of a prophetic plan to weaken the country, specifically the U.S.
That's a very specific interpretation of social changes.
It is. And there's also a particularly strong claim urging prayer for Christians in South Africa.
Why South Africa specifically?
The sources allege that the government there is basically making war on the whites, and that Christians are specifically targeted by those in control.
Okay, again, we need to stress these are highly contentious political claims from the sources themselves. We're presenting their perspective, not validating it.
Absolutely. It's crucial to understand the viewpoint being presented in the material, including these more charged elements.
So, given all this impending crisis, these complex issues, do the sources offer any kind of forum or resource for people who believe this?
Yes, they do. They promote something called the Gen 6 Conference, which is also referred to as the True Legends Conference.
What's the purpose of that?
It's described as a teaching conference, scheduled for September 15th and 16th in Branson, Missouri. The goal is apparently to provide battlefield experience and answers.
Battlefield experience, how?
By sharing what they call cutting-edge, up-to-date original research on all these topics, giants, fallen angels, UFOs, going deep into the cosmological origin of war in space, tracing it through history and prehistory.
Who's speaking there? Any names mentioned?
Yes, several prominent figures within that field of research. Tom Horn, L.A. Marzulli, Tim Alberino, Dr. Michael Lake, Derek Gilbert, Anand P. Rambla, and Pastor David Langford.
Okay.
And there's an interesting note. They claim Tom Horn said this would be his last time speaking at an event like this, which adds a layer of perhaps urgency or finality for those who follow his work.
And attendees can interact.
Yeah, it seems there will be opportunities to ask questions directly to the researchers and authors.
Wow. Okay. What a journey we've taken today, really sifting through these. These claims are just immense. Hard to even wrap your head around some of them.
Truly. We've tried to synthesize these really astonishing allegations from the sources you provided, everything from literal giants waking up in Antarctica.
Right, to this convergence of ancient prophecies with, super advanced tech and spiritual warfare happening right now.
And the core message from these sources seems to be that understanding this information is vital. Vital for making sense of current events and for preparing for whatever they believe is coming next. They're urging you, the listener, to really consider what this might mean for your own perspective.
So it leaves us with a pretty big question to ponder, doesn't it? If these ancient sort of invisible realities that the sources talk about, if they really are converging with our visible world, then what personal blind spots might we still have? What might be preventing you or any of us from seeing the full picture?